Welcome to my channel. Subscribe and enjoy daily stories about cheating, revenge, and relationship advice. I had always prided myself on my ability to notice the small things, but I didn't expect a single letter to be the key that would unravel my world. It was a drab Wednesday evening, and the office had been grueling as usual. I was eager to escape the fluorescent lights and the relentless hum of the copier. When I walked through the front door of our home, the familiar scent of Maria's cooking was in the air. My tired muscles relaxed as I entered the kitchen, but my sense of peace was short-lived. Maria was standing by the countertop, her face flushed with a peculiar mix of embarrassment and guilt. She was just stuffing something into her purse when I came into view. "Hey, Maria, you look like you're up to something," I said, trying to keep my tone light, but my curiosity piqued. She froze for a split second before plastering on a smile. "Oh, just a bill," she replied, her voice a little too high-pitched. "Anything important?" I asked, leaning in closer. "Not really," Maria said, brushing past me. "Just a standard utility bill. Nothing to worry about." I watched her with narrowed eyes as she turned her attention back to the stove. The smell of garlic and onions wafted through the air, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. After a few moments of casual conversation and an unusually quiet dinner, I excused myself to the living room. Maria seemed unusually distracted, her eyes darting toward the hallway where she had hidden her purse. Once she was busy with the dishes, I found the courage to take a look. Her purse was lying on the couch, its contents spilling slightly. I hesitated for a moment, but my curiosity overruled my guilt. I carefully pulled out the letter that she had hidden. The envelope was plain, but the name written on it sent a chill down my spine, David. My hands shook as I opened the envelope, and my eyes scanned the page quickly. Each line of the letter revealed more than I wanted to know: plans to meet up, inside jokes, and declarations of love. David wasn't just some distant acquaintance, he was someone I had considered a friend. The letter was filled with intimate details about their relationship, their plans for a future together, and a confession of love that made my blood run cold. I tried to calm my racing heart as I folded the letter back and stuffed it into the envelope. I could feel my anger building, mingling with a deep sense of betrayal. I walked back into the kitchen, the letter weighing heavily in my pocket. "Everything all right, Alex?" Maria asked, glancing up from the sink. Her face was a mask of normalcy, but I could see the tension in her shoulders. "Yeah, everything's fine," I said, my voice betraying none of the storm that was brewing inside me. "Just tired from work." "Me too," Maria said, drying her hands on a towel. "It's been a long day." We exchanged small talk for the rest of the evening, but I couldn't stop my mind from racing. The image of David's name on the letter replayed in my mind like a loop. The anger that simmered beneath the surface was impossible to ignore. I needed to think clearly and plan my next steps carefully. Later that night, as I lay in bed, the letter was still fresh in my mind. I stared at the ceiling, wrestling with a torrent of emotions: anger, hurt, and a fierce determination to confront the situation. Maria's warm, steady breathing beside me was a cruel reminder of the facade we had been living behind. The days following the revelation were a blur of steely resolve and calculated moves. I couldn't just sit idly by, I needed to act. I immersed myself in a meticulous plan, channeling my pain and anger into a structured approach to expose Maria's betrayal and prepare for what was to come. I started by gathering evidence. I spent hours researching private investigators and tech experts, determined to build a solid case. My first step was to hire Nina, a sharp and discreet private investigator with a reputation for thoroughness. I met her at a nondescript coffee shop, hoping that the casual setting would keep our conversation private. As I sipped my coffee, Nina arrived, her presence confident and unassuming. We exchanged pleasantries before diving into the heart of the matter. "So, what's the situation?" Nina asked, her tone professional yet empathetic. I slid the letter across the table. "This is where it started. I need evidence of Maria's affair with this man, David." Nina read the letter, her eyes narrowing as she processed the information. All right. I'll need to follow her discreetly and gather photographic and possibly digital evidence. It might take a few days. Do whatever it takes, I said, my voice steely. I want everything documented. I need to be prepared for a divorce. Nina nodded, taking notes. I'll get started on this immediately. You'll hear from me soon. With Nina on the case, I turned my attention to the tech side of things. I hired Eddie, a tech expert who specialized in surveillance and digital evidence. Eddie met me at my home to discuss how he could help. As he set up a few discrete devices, we talked through the plan. So, you want to monitor her communications? Eddie asked, his eyes scanning the equipment he was setting up. Exactly, I said. I need to know everything. Texts, calls, emails, anything that can prove her infidelity. Eddie nodded, his fingers flying over his equipment. I can set up a monitoring system that will capture everything she does on her phone and computer. It's all about being discreet. I'll make sure nothing stands out. I appreciate it, I said. The sooner we get this sorted, the better. With the evidence gathering underway, I turned my focus to the legal side of things. I hired a lawyer, someone with experience in handling high-conflict divorces. My first meeting with the lawyer, Robert, was crucial in understanding our options. Robert leaned back in his chair, reviewing the documents I had brought. Based on what you've shown me, we have a solid case. But it's important to be strategic about this. We'll need to prepare for a potentially drawn-out battle. I'm ready for that, I said, my jaw clenched. I want to ensure that everything is in order before we proceed. I also want to be prepared for the personal fallout. I plan to expose this at a dinner party we're hosting next week. Robert raised an eyebrow. That's a bold move. Just be prepared for the emotional impact it might have on everyone involved. It could get messy. I understand, I said. But it's something I feel I need to do. It's not just about the divorce, it's about the truth. As the day of the dinner party approached, I began spreading rumors about Maria's behavior to our close friends and family. It wasn't something I relished, but I felt it was necessary to prepare them for what was to come. The gossip spread quickly, and by the time the party arrived, the air was thick with anticipation and unease. The night of the dinner party arrived, and I was a bundle of nerves. Maria and I had put on a brave front, trying to appear normal. The guests arrived, each one greeted with forced smiles and strained pleasantries. The tension was palpable, but I kept my focus on the task at hand. Throughout the evening, I could see the curiosity in the eyes of our guests as they sensed something was amiss. I waited for the right moment, my heart racing. When the time came, I stood up, my voice steady despite the storm of emotions inside me. I need to share something important, I announced, pulling out the evidence I had meticulously collected. The room fell silent as I began to lay out the photographs, recordings, and the damning letter. Shock and disbelief spread across the faces of our friends and family. Maria's face turned white as the truth unfolded. She tried to speak, to defend herself, but the evidence was irrefutable. The room erupted into chaos. Some guests were visibly uncomfortable, while others looked at her with pity and judgment. The night ended in a whirlwind of emotions, with friends and family scrambling to process the revelation. Maria was devastated, her world crumbling around her. And as the guests departed, I was left alone with the bitter aftermath of my actions, my heart heavy with the knowledge that the path to healing would be long and uncertain. The night of the dinner party was set to be a test of my resolve. The house was adorned with candles, soft music played in the background, and the aroma of a carefully prepared meal lingered in the air. Despite the facade of normalcy, the tension between Maria and me was almost palpable. We were on edge, knowing that the evening was about to take a dramatic turn. The doorbell rang, and our guests began to arrive, friends, family, and acquaintances, all chatting and laughing as they entered. I greeted them with a forced smile, trying to mask the turmoil inside me. Maria was the picture of hostess perfection, her smile warm as she ushered everyone into the dining room. "Alex, it's so nice to see you," said Sarah, one of Maria's closest friends, as she gave me a hug. "How's work been?" "Busy, as usual," I replied, my smile tight. "But I'm looking forward to tonight." The conversation flowed, but beneath the surface, I could feel the tension building. As the main course was served, I watched the clock, waiting for the opportune moment. The meal was a blur of polite conversation and awkward glances. I could sense that something was off, and whispers of the rumors I had spread earlier seemed to linger in the air. After dessert, as the coffee was being served, I knew it was time. I stood up, feeling the weight of the moment. The room fell silent, the clinking of cups and saucers pausing as everyone turned to me. "I'd like to say a few words," I began, my voice steady but laced with a tremor of anxiety. "Thank you all for coming tonight. I know it's been a bit of a surprise, but there's something important I need to share." Maria looked at me with a mixture of confusion and dread. "Alex, what are you doing?" she whispered urgently. I ignored her and continued. "I've recently discovered something that's been very painful for me. I need to be honest with everyone here." With a deep breath, I pulled out the envelope containing the evidence. I began to lay out the photographs, the recordings, and finally, the damning letter from David. As I spread the evidence on the table, a collective gasp filled the room. "Alex, what is this?" Maria's voice wavered as she tried to intervene. "Please, let's not do this here." I looked at her, my expression a mixture of sadness and determination. "I need everyone to see this. Maria has been involved in an affair with David, someone I considered a friend. This is the truth." The room erupted into chaos. Sarah's eyes widened in shock. "Maria, is this true?" Maria's face flushed, tears welling up in her eyes. "It's not what it looks like." "Alex, please, we can talk about this later." "What is there to talk about?" David's voice came from the doorway. He had arrived late, perhaps sensing the storm. He looked around, realizing the gravity of the situation. "Alex, save it," I cut him off, my voice cold. "You're late, and the damage is done. Everyone here now knows the truth." The tension in the room was palpable. Some guests looked at Maria with pity, while others seemed conflicted, unsure of how to react. Conversations turned into murmurs of disbelief and sympathy. As the guests began to leave, I watched Maria crumble. Her facade of composure was gone, replaced by raw, uncontrollable emotion. She tried to explain herself to anyone who would listen, but the damage had been done. Sarah approached me as the last of the guests departed, her face a mix of concern and sympathy. "Alex, I can't believe this. Are you okay?" "I'm not sure yet," I admitted. "I needed everyone to know the truth. Now, I need to figure out what comes next." Sarah nodded, offering a comforting pat on the shoulder. "If you need anything, just let me know." As Sarah left, I looked around the now empty house. The once vibrant atmosphere was now filled with an unsettling silence. Maria sat at the dining table, her head in her hands, sobbing quietly. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. The evening had been a whirlwind of emotions, and while I had exposed the truth, it was only the beginning of a long and painful journey. The path ahead would be challenging, filled with difficult conversations and decisions. For now, I was left with the haunting quiet of our home and the reality of the choices that lay ahead. The days following the dinner party felt like an emotional battlefield. The once vibrant atmosphere of our home had turned into a tense, quiet space, filled with the echoes of recent revelations. Maria and I were both grappling with the fallout from the night's events. The house was eerily silent, save for the occasional muffled sob or heated argument. The next morning, Maria and I faced each other across the kitchen table. Her eyes were red from crying, and I could see the weight of the previous night's chaos pressing down on her. "Alex," she said softly, her voice cracking, "I'm so sorry. I never meant for things to get this bad." I looked at her, my expression a mix of hurt and resolve. "Sorry doesn't change what happened, Maria. Last night wasn't just about the affair, it was about the betrayal, the lies, and how it all came to light. We can't just brush this off. Maria's hands trembled as she reached for her coffee cup. I know I've hurt you deeply. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make this right. Please, let's try to work through this. The intensity of the situation left me conflicted. The pain of betrayal was still fresh, but a part of me wanted to believe that we could salvage what we had. Later that day, I met with Robert, our lawyer, to discuss the legal ramifications and the next steps. His office was calm and professional, a stark contrast to the turmoil of my personal life. So, where do we stand? Robert asked, glancing at the documents I had brought. I'm torn, I admitted. I want to proceed with the divorce, but part of me is considering counseling. I don't know if we can fix things, but I want to at least try. Robert nodded, understanding. Counseling is a good option if both parties are committed to working through their issues. It might be worth exploring before finalizing any decisions. It can help clarify if reconciliation is possible or if moving forward separately is the better path. I left Robert's office with a heavy heart, knowing that our next steps would be crucial. That evening, Maria and I sat down with a counselor, Dr. Jenkins, whose calm demeanor offered a glimmer of hope amid our chaos. Dr. Jenkins began the session with a soothing tone. Let's start by discussing what brought you both here and what you hope to achieve through counseling. Maria took a deep breath, her voice trembling. I want to make amends. I know I've made terrible mistakes, but I still love Alex, and I want to find a way to rebuild our trust. I looked at Dr. Jenkins, my emotions raw. I'm not sure what to expect from this process. I'm hurt and angry, but I'm willing to try if there's a chance to repair what's been broken. Dr. Jenkins nodded, taking notes. Rebuilding trust takes time and effort from both sides. It's important to address the underlying issues that led to the affair and to work on open, honest communication. The sessions were emotionally draining but necessary. Each meeting forced us to confront our issues and communicate in ways we hadn't before. There were breakthroughs and setbacks, but the counseling provided a framework for understanding and healing. Weeks passed, and the tension slowly began to ease. We made small but meaningful strides in our relationship. Maria and I found ourselves rediscovering aspects of each other that we had lost sight of. We laughed, argued, and began to reconnect, albeit cautiously. One evening, as we sat together discussing our future, Maria's voice was filled with cautious optimism. I know it's not going to be easy, but I'm committed to making this work. We have so much to look forward to, especially with the baby coming. I looked at her, my heart softening. I want to believe that we can get through this. It won't be easy, but if we're both willing to work at it, maybe we can find a way forward. The news of our upcoming child added a new layer of complexity to our relationship. We both knew that we had to put aside our differences and focus on creating a stable environment for the baby. It became a shared goal that united us in a new way. Our journey was far from over, and the road to healing was still long and uncertain. But as we faced the future together, there was a glimmer of hope in the midst of our struggle. We were learning to navigate the complexities of our relationship, preparing ourselves for the arrival of our child and the new chapter that awaited us.